Gonna be the very last take. This is gonna be the last take. Welcome back. Today I'm gonna be talking about one more title. One more title for the day. This will be my second book review. And that is The Sleep Experiment by Jeremy Bates. Now, I mean second book review today, not in general. Go check out the other ones, if you will. If you will. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. Got it as a gift along with The Catacombs by Jeremy Bates. I had never read anything by this author, so this was the first time, and I was definitely pleasantly surprised because I had a little bit of a fear going in that it just wouldn't be as scary as I would like. Now, I wasn't terrified by the book by any means, but it definitely had like solid, intriguing, and sort of eerie concepts that were brought about as the story unfolded. Um, and I really liked that. After reading the book, there was sort of a slight paranoia that lingered in my mind after reading it. Not anything like explosive, but there was a slight, like, oh, better get enough sleep now, And, that sounds silly or whatever, but you read it and you're like, oh shit, definitely should get enough sleep, I guess. Now, the situations in this book are totally different from anything that would ever be considered normal or regular in everyday life, But it did make you feel a little bit like, oh, don't want to end up like them. Don't want to know if that's even possible. So anyway, one of the things I loved about this story was the building sense of paranoia that sort of bubbled to the finish, which was really important to me. I love that slow burn, but that slow burn that isn't boring, if that makes sense. I love a slow burn with all the right things leading up to the conclusion, and this book definitely did that. Like I said, I love the main character. I think I said that, but I didn't like the supporting characters. They all were like goofy and stereotypical and cliche and uninteresting and just bland altogether and just filler, for the book. And it was really disappointing reading every line that came out of these characters' mouths. And it's just ridiculous the way some of these characters were written and their dialogue. It is definitely the worst part about this book. Other than that, though, the stupid side characters aside, the main character stole the show, in my opinion. The things that happened in the book were intriguing and interesting and suspenseful, and all the things I wanted them to be. Um, my only other issue with the book was really the ending. For the most part, I think a lot of people would probably disagree and say that the ending was totally fine. But because of the way I felt about a certain character in the book, I didn't enjoy the way things panned out. I liked the end for the most part up until the last page or the last paragraph. It was one of those things, like, it was a smooth ride for the most part. I was liking the way the book was wrapping itself up, and then that last page or paragraph really kind of just seemed sour to me. It wasn't what I wanted, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to totally disagree and say the ending was totally warranted. The theme of the end is sort of a, what goes around comes around type deal. And I totally like understand and respect that. But I was just hoping it would go a little differently. Other than that, though, it doesn't take away from how good the story was at all. There were good scares in the book. There was definitely like this sort of anxious feeling as you watch these characters sort of pass the line of what's right and wrong, and also cross the line of sane and insane. You really see the envelope pushed, I guess you can say, and the experiment definitely has some very adverse side effects. I don't know if I got into the plot enough already. I may not have. I'm sorry. It's basically, if you haven't heard of the sleep experiment, I guess it's necessary for me to explain. I didn't really have to look into this book at all. I got it as a gift, but I read the sleep experiment and I had a pretty good idea of what I would be getting myself into. So that's why I haven't gone into the plot very much. It's really simple. It's basically a modern day recreation of the Russian sleep experiment. And in this recreation, there's two test subjects. They're put in a room where they're allowed to leave, but they're not supposed to for the experiment's sake. And what happens is in the room, they're administered a gas that keeps them awake for anywhere from 5 to 14 days. I think the cutoff was like 15 days or something like that. Could be totally wrong, but that is what I remember. And yeah, so basically, it's exactly what you would expect. They have this experiment and things go terribly wrong. And it's a fun ride watching things unfold and all these complications come up. And yeah, for the most part, I really didn't have any issue with the story. It even surprised me in a good way, like more often than I expected. And like I may have said before, one thing I loved about the book was also the lingering sense of wonder after reading, and that is important in a horror novel. You want something that's going to leave you thinking, and this book definitely did that. So all in all, I really enjoyed it. My only issues were the shittily written background characters, and the ending, but I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me on the ending. For the most part, it was still a good ending. It was just my personal opinion, that I wanted a little more. I wanted a little more. I wanted it to go a little differently, but that's totally fine still. I still like the book a lot. But because of my negatives, I'm going to have to give the book, I would say like 3.5 stars to 4 stars out of 5, So, all in all, it was still a solid book, but those were just my issues, and that's why it got a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. Anyway, still go check this book out because it's definitely fun, and I don't regret reading it in any way. It's a good one for my collection. I'm excited to read The Catacombs. That one is much longer. This was a quick read, though, as you can see. And it was meant to be. This book shouldn't have been like dragged out in any way. This was the perfect length, and I definitely have more respect for the book because of that reason. I didn't want a big daunting book where they try and just drag out the themes that are introduced in this length. And what I want to say is this was the perfect appropriate length. Anyway. That's my review for the sleep experiment. Go check that out. And I'm sure most will love it. I'm sure most will really get everything they wanted out of it. My only issue were the characters in the ending, but still solid book. All right, so check it out. Sorry if I rambled a little bit or whatever, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Go check out that book, The Sleep Experiment by Jeremy Bates. Take care.